Just because Mr. Lyda got here, everybody got quiet. Sam Bright, you want to give your presentation now?
No, sir, I'll wait.
I'm going to call the Monday, November 5th, City Council meeting to order, and ask the clerk to call the roll.
Mr. Green?
Here.
Mr. Lyda? Dr. Middlebrooks?
Here.
Mr. Murphy?
Here.
Mr. Posey?
Here.
Mr. Shaw?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here. If everyone will stand, the clerk will provide the invitation, and Mr. Posey will pledge. Oh, wait a minute, this is better. Mr. Green, pledge.
Heavenly Father, thank you for the blessings of this day. Help us to be mindful of how precious life is and how things can change in an instant, as it did for Mike Gelati, as it did for the 11 people who were killed and the 7 who were injured at the synagogue in Pittsburgh. We pray for peace in our world and within our own hearts as we struggle to comprehend these acts of violence. Help us to be your light in the darkness and a living sign of your love to those around us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, we got some reports, some proclamations, some recognitions. We'll start with Judge Jill Gaines. White, make the agenda, but we'll go ahead and throw you in.
I appreciate it. Not making the agenda.
That's on our part.
Okay, that's, yeah. Council, President, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jill Gaines. I'm your district court judge in Jefferson County. I'm in the Bessemer Division, but run countywide. I live at 2376 Farley Terrace in Bluff Park and a Hoover residence for 17 years. And I was sitting here trying to think whether or not, I believe I am the only Hoover resident for a county-wide position. And please vote for me tomorrow and have a Hoover girl as your judge and continue. I've been actively involved in this community. I have a 16-year-old, I was about to say 17-year-old, I'm trying to push him out the door, but he's still there. He is a junior at Hoover High School, and I was on the Hoover City School Board and until Governor Ivey appointed me last October. I had previously been on the bench as a family court judge for 7 years and as a prosecutor for close to 18 years in Jefferson County as well as in Tuscaloosa County. I heard our prayer, what we talked about, and the violence, and those are the cases that I deal with every day. I hear what's going on in our backyard, and I'm not talking our backyard way across town, way across the other side of the country. I'm talking about here in Hoover and Jefferson County. Homicide rate in the city of Birmingham is one of the highest. Our overdose rate for heroin has gone up 34% this year. We've got some serious issues that we need to focus on happening right here, and you've got a serious candidate and judge standing in front of you. Hopefully, I'll leave this for you. My website is Keep Judge Jill Gaines Dr. Nom, I'm not sure if that matters or not, but, please, I know it's gonna be stormy tomorrow, but please come and vote, and thank you for your time, and thank you, President, for letting me.
Next we have Representative David Faulkner, trying to keep his job.
I have a few right now, having a campaign as well, President. But thank you for letting me be here, council members, Mayor, Frank, wherever you are right now, and members of Hoover. I'm David Faulkner, and I represent a part of Hoover, so I'm one of your representatives. I represent the part of Hoover that's Bluff Park, everywhere, Lake Crest, the Preserve, and that area of Hoover is primarily where I have. So it's not by any means a majority of Hoover in any respect. I also represent a large part of Mountain Brook and a large part of Homewood. It has been my honor and pleasure to serve you for the last 4 years. The people gave me that honor. It was the first time I've held elected office. I have done my best to represent people well and seek God's wisdom in doing it. Every day that we're down there, I ask for His wisdom and guidance. And I've had some great help in passing a lot of bills and doing things for Hoover. I visit my elementary schools in Hoover. I'm very close to your school board. Your school board members, your school superintendent have my cell phone, and I talk to them frequently. Craig Kelly's wholeheartedly endorsed me, the president of the school board, and I'm friends with all of those members, as I'm friends with your council members. And they have my cell phone, and your mayor has my cell phone. And if Hoover asks me to do something, I do it. We got the flags just recently for the Veterans Ceremony, and we do that each year. We named a bridge for former Councilman Brian Skelton up here, and we did that. And I'm fixing to work with Casey and other members of the council on the bridge for Lieutenant Gelati. And for his service to our country, and what a tragic ending to his life. The mayor asked me to support the new playground out at Hoover, and I've committed $25,000 to that. And I'm excited about that new playground, that all-inclusive playground. So my education's a passion of mine, so I do visit my schools every year. But I just want you to know that I'm here. I make myself accessible to your council members. I make myself accessible to my constituents and to your school board. I care deeply about this city. I'm real encouraged with the growth of Hoover and what's going on here. And I know there's been some tough votes and city votes that they take, that there might be differences of opinion on in Hoover. But what a blessing it is to have this city and see how it's growing and what it's doing for our state. It's a really safe place to live. It's got the safest school system in the state of Alabama. And there's so many great things happening in Hoover. And I'm just proud to be able to help at the state level any way I can. So I'd appreciate your vote tomorrow. God willing, I'll serve another 4 years and represent Hoover again. But I would appreciate your support and vote tomorrow if you do live in District 46. Thank you so much. Thank you, Council.
Next we have Mr. Jay Roberson with Birmingham Iron Football.
Good evening, Mr. President, Smith, to Pro Tem Green, and to the council, to Mayor Mercado in his absence. I want to thank personally Councilor Derek Murphy for the invitation to come out tonight. I am not running for office. I just want to let you all know that. And I'm not campaigning tonight, but I am coming to you to talk about football. And I know in the state of Alabama, particularly in the city of Hoover, Mr. President, you all love football. And we have a new professional football team here in Birmingham called the Birmingham Iron. To Councilor Leiter, I know you're a diehard Alabama fan, but we got some great former Alabama players that will be a part of this great team that you know of in the name of Trent Richardson, Blake Sims. For the Auburn fans out there, we'll have Chris Davis. It's truly a great opportunity to support Birmingham and its team, along with the metropolitan area.
We want fans to come and support the Birmingham Iron throughout the metropolitan area. Matter of fact, during the holidays, to the citizens that are present here tonight, there will be a presence of the Birmingham Iron in the Galleria. We have met with Mike White out there. We want to make sure that fans are engaged with our coach, Tim Lewis, engaged with our players, and a part of the Iron football team that's going to be here in Birmingham. We actually don't kick off, so I can't say we kick off on February 10th because we don't have kickoffs. We will actually start our home opener on February the 10th here at Legion Field. The old Gray Lady will play there for the first 3 years. The players are going on to the new stadium in 2021 fall season. Games will be televised live on CBS nationally. So this whole region will be seen with the Birmingham Iron, and we'll be competing against 8 other teams to get to the championship, which will take place in late April in Las Vegas. So I'm here to ask this council and this Mayor Mercado, and the citizens of the city of Hoover to come out and support the Birmingham Iron. We're a city and a region of history. We were built off our iron. We were built off the foundation of hardworking blue-collar citizens, and we're going to continue those efforts by supporting our football team in Birmingham. So come out, tickets are on sale now, and let's go out and support the Birmingham Iron. Thank you, Mr. President Smith. Thank you to the council, and thank you to my friend Derek Murphy for the invitation to come out and speak to you tonight. Go Iron.
Next, we have a proclamation. Dr. Millbrooks, you want to speak? Oh, he's down.
Good evening. I'm excited to introduce the proclamation in support of naming the new bridge off Highway 150 in between the community of Lake Cyrus and Ross Bridge Parkway in honor of Mike Gelati. I have to say, while I may be spearheading this, this is a total team effort. It started with reaching out to the family with their blessing. It started with my peers up here, and they're getting their blessing, the mayor's office, community support, and working with our local state representatives. So this is a total team effort in getting this bridge named for an honorable, worthy individual. As you all know, Mike was murdered in his driveway. Anytime there's a death in our city, it's tragic. However, we're very lucky and blessed to not have that many murders occur in our city. When they do, most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, it's due to some poor decision in that person's life. That just wasn't the case with Mike. As I've said many times, Mike was doing all the right things. He served his country in Iraq. He was a loving father, a loving husband. And I can't even say he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, because he was gunned down in his driveway. So it's an honor for the city, and it'll be an honor for the state to have that representation on this. Mr. Corley, if you will, read the proclamation.
Whereas Jonathan Michael Mike Gelati was born in Atlanta, Georgia on December 17, 1982. And whereas Mike moved with his family in Two Sisters, Pennsylvania, and then to Connecticut during his childhood years, where he attended Avon High School. Whereas Mike was an active, gregarious student, was involved in many activities, including wrestling, football, band, and civil air patrol, and developed a strong interest in the armed forces and military service during his high school years. Whereas after he graduated from high school in 2001, Mike enrolled at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst, where he was active in the Army ROTC. Whereas Mike was involved in many ROTC activities while in college and attended summer ROTC programs at different bases across the nation, including Air Assault School at the University of Hawaii, and Manoa, where he met his future wife, Heather, who was another participant in the program. Whereas in 2005, he graduated from college with honors in economics and moved to Fort Knox, Kentucky for an officer training school. Whereas Mike ultimately became a first lieutenant and tank commander, proudly serving in the 212 Cavalry Regiment in Iraq from 2006 to 2007 as a platoon leader, engaged in multiple combat encounters and civil projects sponsored by the U.S. Army to support Iraqi citizens. Whereas he was honorably discharged from the U.S. Army in 2008, married Heather, and moved to Jacksonville, Florida, where he was hired by State Farm Insurance Company for regional operation. Whereas Mike moved to Hoover in 2012 with Heather, and their first child, Russell, for Mike to continue his career with State Farm as a unit leader while living in Hoover's Lake Cyrus community. They welcomed their second child, Kevin. Whereas Mike and Heather were active members in the Hoover community and were members of the River Chase United Methodist Church and the Hoover YMCA. Whereas Mike was an energetic, active, humorous person who genuinely appreciated people, treated all people with respect and fairness, and was highly regarded by his family, friends, colleagues, and military brothers. Whereas he loved our country and he had a deep regard for those who served in our armed forces. Whereas Mike was, most of all, a dedicated family man who spent whatever time his busy schedule would allow with his wife Heather and their sons Russell and Kevin. Whereas Mike's kindness, commitment to others, striving for excellence, and great sense of humor became his trademarks and what his friends and family recall with pride and deep admiration. And whereas the life of Mike Gelati serves as a worthy example for all citizens of Hoover in the state of Alabama and a fitting memorial to his memory is well deserved. Now therefore, I, Frank D. Burcato, Mayor of the City of Hoover, Alabama, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby request that the Alabama Department of Transportation name the bridge on Alabama State Route 150 between Rossbridge Bridge Parkway and Lake Cyrus Boulevard in the honor and memory of Jonathan Michael Gelati, and that appropriate signage be placed at the site. I encourage all citizens of the City of Hoover to join with me in recognizing and celebrating Mike Gelati's life, legacy, and memory.
Dr. Middlebrooks, do you have anything else?
No, Mr. President.
Any other members? Next, we have a proclamation for National Hospice and Palliative Care Month. Right.
Thank you. Pardon me. Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. If I could ask some guests to come forward. We have Stephanie Sansing, Missy Montz, Dr. Lisa Columbia, Donna Mullins, and Debbie Dowd. If you could join me down at the front, please. Mr. President, we've all been, most of us have been in a situation, if not, unfortunately, many of us will be, where we have loved ones whose lives reach a point where medical options are limited and comfort care and end-of-life concerns become important. And there are people who walk the earth who I think are angels, who do that type of work that most of us could not do. And I can assure you, after many, many years in the healthcare field, I could not do what these ladies do. So we wanted to just take a minute and recognize National Hospice and Palliative Care Month, and I think Mr. Corley has the text of the proclamation.
Whereas, as Medicare's first proven coordinated care model, hospice is a program that works offering person-centered, compassionate care, ensuring people dignity, choice, and quality of lives. And whereas the hospice model involves an interdisciplinary, team-oriented approach to treatment, including expert medical care, quality symptom control, and comprehensive pain management as a foundation of care. Whereas beyond providing physical treatment, hospice attends to the patient's emotional, spiritual, and family needs, and provides family services like respite care and bereavement counseling. Whereas in an increasingly fragmented and broken healthcare system, hospice is one of the few sectors that demonstrates how healthcare can and should work at its best for its patients. Whereas a growing body of peer-reviewed research indicates that timely access to hospice and palliative care can decrease hospitalizations, emergency room visits, and increase quality of life for patients and family caregivers. Whereas every year, more than 1.5 million Americans living with life-limiting illness and their families receive care from the nation's hospice programs in communities throughout the United States. Whereas hospice and palliative care organizations and advocates and educators about advanced care planning that help individuals make decisions about the care they want. Whereas the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services have pledged to put patients first in all of its programs, including hospice, ensuring a coordinated and patient-led approach to care, protecting patient choice and access to individualized services based on a patient's unique care needs and wishes. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Frank D. Burcato, Mayor of the City of Hoover, do hereby proclaim November 2018 as National Hospice and Palliative Care Month, and encourage citizens to increase their understanding and awareness of care at the end of life, and to observe this month with appropriate activities and programs.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, I understand we're joined by Jessica, her mother Jennifer, her father Marty, who's a former Hoover police officer, and I heard that brother Ryan is at home playing video games. What are you gonna do with a brother, right? If y'all would please come on down to the front. Mr. President, Hoover is a community of many notable accomplishments in many different venues, but I think, as Mr. Roberson alluded, we're known for our sports prowess, actually nationwide. And we're known for benchmarks and for firsts. And we're honored to recognize Jessica because she has set a new benchmark. Jessica's always been fearless in her pursuit of sports activities. She became a brown belt in Taekwondo at the age of 10. I think I was supposed to call Grandma up here too. Where's Miss Weidel? You're not coming? Okay. Now I'm in trouble with Grandma. She earned her brown belt in Taekwondo at the age of 10. She played middle school basketball. Since the age of 5, she's been heavily involved in competitive soccer, has been recruited to compete for the Olympic Development Program in both Virginia and Alabama. She has a love of football that comes naturally because she's from Alabama. In 2015, the family moved back here after spending 10 years in the state of Virginia. We're glad to have them back. And in the 7th grade, her parents finally relented and allowed her to try out for the football team. And that first year, she was called in anytime there was a point after attempt needed. She did her job. Unfortunately, she had to sit out with a broken kicking toe. But she got back in there, and for the past year, she's participated diligently. She's now 10 of 12 as point after attempts for the Hoover freshman team, and I understand that she routinely boots it about 40 yards on kickoffs. So for her hard work and dedication, which has earned her a position on the Hoover High School freshman football team as its first female place kicker, we recognize Ms. Jessica Johnson.
Congratulations. Rice, and we have a couple of employee recognition.
We do, Mr. President. I think one of the neatest things that's happened during this political term is the recognition of city employees at council. And I think we all know that we have about 800 hardworking people that are the backbone of our efforts as a city government. Tonight we have the opportunity, pretty bittersweet, but we'd like to recognize Robert Davis for a number of different accomplishments. Robert, are you available to come forward? I heard you didn't bring your crew with you. Okay. Riding solo, I hear you. Robert came on board with us in 1992, the same year I did, as one of our custodians. In 1998, he became an animal control officer. He retired October 31st of this year. We're not very happy about that. But he served with dignity and with distinction around our city. And oftentimes there are things happening in the background with our employees that the community never gets an opportunity to see. Robert not only gives outstanding customer service to the residents of Hoover, but he's been recognized within his industry. He recently received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Alabama Animal Control Association, and that wasn't enough, so they also named a collegiate scholarship, the Robert Davis Scholarship, after him. And these are shoes we don't fill. We just hire the next person to come along and try to perform the service that Robert has done. We want to recognize him tonight, not only for what you've done for the city, but for the high degree of professionalism that you have brought to animal control services and the recognition statewide that your peers have bestowed upon you. We love you. We hear you get a food truck. All right, bring it right up here to City Hall. We like food trucks. Okay. Congratulations.
right, next, Chief Burgess, got some new police officers.
I got one more, Mr. President, I apologize.
Another.
Yes, sir, we've got one more. About 17 years ago, I got called to the fire chief's office, which was not an unusual occurrence for me. This time it was a good thing, and he informed me that Hoover had hired their first female firefighter paramedic, and that upon my promotion to captain, that she would be joining my station. I'd like to ask Wanda Durrett to come forward, her husband Glenn, her daughter Stephanie, who is a remarkably accomplished young lady in her own right, her son-in-law David, and her granddaughter Amelia. Wanda was a lieutenant at the Fairfield Fire Department for many years, and when history caught up with Hoover, and it was time to bring a female firefighter paramedic into our ranks, I know that Chief Bradley diligently looked high and low for an individual that had already established themselves in our industry and had set a high standard and would augment the great things that our fire department was already doing. I have to tell this quick story. I walked Wanda around the station. I said, hey, what modifications do we need to do for you to be comfortable working with the men who are working here? And she said, well, you might want to put some curtains up here and a couple things over there. I said, okay, because I want you to be comfortable. She said, I just wouldn't want to embarrass them if they were changing and I walked by. And I think her attitude, her demeanor, her professionalism, the way that she just took everything in stride. And I do want to tell you, the first 2 fires that she ever went on in the city of Hoover, she personally put the fire out. No kidding. So we love you. We hate to see you go. We know you're off to some grandma stuff and some other things. And your service has made a difference. And guess who we met today? Hoover's next female firefighter paramedic who started today. Absolutely. Congratulations.
Want to get up and say that? Says she's ready to come back to work. Retirement's killing her. All right, Chief Burgess.
Council, distinguished guests, always an exciting evening to introduce, and I'm honored to introduce you to some new employees. I'm going to call them down individually. We'll start first with Eric Nichols. Eric, come on down. Eric's a small gentleman here. Comes from the Talladega Sheriff's Department with 13 years of experience, and I want to recognize his wife, Brandy, and his son, Eric, daughter, Scarlett, his mom, Teresa. We all stand up back there, please. Appreciate y'all being here, and welcome to our family here. Thank you. Eric's going to be working probably as a lineman for our football team that we're going to start. Second new employee, Jana Newsom. Jana, come on down. Jana comes from Northport PD, 3 years of experience there. She has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from UAB. She grew up on a cattle farm in Gurley, Alabama, and they had about 20 horses also. So again, we're excited about Jana joining us. We've now I think we've hired about 3 officers in the last few years from Northport, so they probably don't like us coming. And I see some of her compadres in the back of the room, and we're really excited about both of these employees. And we'll do the oath of office, Council.
gonna start announcing for us now?
Yeah, we should. And also want to comment too, you'll see several of our officers growing beards this month for No Shave November for the Wings of Hope for pediatric cancer. So again, appreciate any donations for that cause. It's fantastic, and it's our third year of doing it, so thank you very much.
Chief Finley, Fire Department, recognition.
President, council, and guests, thank you for the opportunity for us to be able to present some of our new employees and some of the new promotions. As Chief Burgess was saying, this is always a great opportunity for us to actually put a name or a face with a name, and so we're excited about that. We have 3 promotions that we recently conducted. Captain John Craddock, can you come down? John Craddock has a degree from the University of Auburn. He's a paramedic. He began his fire service career in 1996 with the Alexander City Fire Department. He joined Hoover in 2003. He was promoted to lieutenant in 2014, captain in 2018. He's worked at stations 6, 7, and 8. He currently is the captain at Station 7. With him is his wife Allison, daughters Hannah and Lauren. I'd like to present to you Captain John Craddock. Next is Lieutenant Andy Herring. Andy, come down, please. Andy joined the Hoover Fire Department in 1996. He has served at stations 1, 3, 5, and is currently assigned as a lieutenant on Point 7, Station 7 in the Inverness area. He's an active member of the Hoover Police Department SRT team, and he has been on that team for 17 years. Andy is known for his chef and cooking abilities. He has actually cooked over 6,000 pounds of barbecue for various events that the city has put on and the fire department has sponsored. And he has been on the Hoover Employee Advisory Committee for several years. He is accompanied by his wife Leanne, his daughter Alex, and his mom Eva Heron, and Leanne and Andy have been married for 22 years. I'd like to present to you Lieutenant Andy Heron. Next is Lieutenant Landon Johnson. Landon, would you come down, please? Landon holds a bachelor's degree from Athens State University. He began his career in fire service in 2007. He came to Hoover in 2009. His father is actually Jackie Johnson, who was assigned to the Bluff Park Station for many years. And so he is a second-generation firefighter. He's worked at stations 1, 8, and is currently assigned as a lieutenant on Engine 4 at Station 4. He's accompanied with his wife, Jamie, sons Trace and Maddox, and they have a daughter on the way. I'd like to present to you Lieutenant Landon Johnson. I will do the oath.
Chief, while you're getting in place, I worked with Jackie Johnson for many, many years. And, that was an experience, but hopefully the apple doesn't fall far from it.
Do solemnly swear. I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the state of Alabama against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. And I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties as a firefighter for the city of Hoover to the best of my skills and abilities. So help me God. If the family members would like to come down, all family members will get individual pictures real quick.
Not all at one time, not all at one time. We're not gonna continue with the agenda until you come down.
This time I'd like to introduce to you 4 new firefighters. First is Mike Coleman, paramedic firefighter Mike Coleman. You come down. Mike holds an associate's degree in fire science, telecommunications, electronic engineering, and automated engineering technology. He is a techno guy. He's a paramedic. He has been with the Hoover Fire Department for 17 and a half years as a part-time firefighter, assigned to Station 6. He just recently retired from the Birmingham Fire and Rescue Service with 23 years of service, and he retired as a lieutenant. He is a second-generation firefighter. His father, who is with us tonight, Mr. Charles, he was a captain with the Birmingham Fire and Rescue Service. Also, Mike's uncle and great-uncle were also firefighters for the city of Birmingham. Mike is currently assigned to Station 2. With him tonight is his wife Shannon, daughters Morgan, Hannah, son Steve, and his parents Charles and Joey Coleman. I'd like to present to you firefighter paramedic Mike Coleman. Next is firefighter Patrick Daniel. Patrick, come down. Patrick comes to us from the Centerpoint Fire Department, where he has served 2 years. He was born in Columbia, South America. He joined the Marine Corps, and he is still an active reservist in the U.S. Navy. He is assigned currently to Station 6. His wife Madison, daughters Sophie, Shiloh, and Adeline are here with his mom Diane. This is the unique thing about Patrick. Patrick told us that he was just thankful and humble for the opportunity to go to work for the city of Hoover. And I thought that said volumes about his character. I'd like to present to you Patrick. Next is firefighter Jonathan Pateo. Jonathan, would you come down? Jonathan grew up in the Jasper area, graduated from Jasper High School in 2012. He's a recent graduate of the Alabama Fire College Recruit School. And that's where I got to meet Jonathan as I was helping teach Recruit School. He's just one of those can-do guys, and so he's just a remarkable person. He has spent 2 years with the Jasper Fire Department. He is currently assigned to Station 3 here, and we're just happy to have him. I'd like to present to you firefighter Jonathan Pateo. And firefighter paramedic Marcus Chambers. Marcus, would you come in? Marcus comes to us from the Forestdale Fire Department. Marcus went through the Hoover Recruit School in 2015, and that's how we got to know him. He's a remarkable person, hard worker, and a can-do guy. He graduated from Bevel State with his paramedic degree. He is accompanied tonight with his wife Stephanie, aka Big Mama. That's how I got the information today. He didn't even put her name down. I had to call about the name. Big Mama. His dad Mike, his stepmom Gigi, sister Courtney Rogers, and Andrea Chambers, grandmother Louise Slavinsky, and his uncle Danny Slavinsky. I'd like to present to you firefighter Marcus Chambers. Faithfully
try to handle matters of business that require action by the council which are considered to be routine and non-controversial in nature, by placing them on what's called a consent agenda, so that individual items on the consent agenda can be approved, adopted, and enacted with one motion and one vote of the council. We will discuss each of these items at length at the Thursday work session prior to each meeting. If you can't make those work sessions, they are available on YouTube to watch. However, during the city council meetings, no discussion will take place regarding any of the items on the consent agenda unless an item is requested to be removed from the consent agenda. Then it will just be dealt with as any other item. We're going to begin utilizing the consent agenda by modifying the agenda discussed last Thursday, prior to the insertion of the consent agenda in the council's regular meeting this evening. And with that, I'm looking for a motion.
Move to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. All right. We get around to it. We've had a lot of proclamations going on. Each member should receive a copy of the minutes. So I'm open for a motion.
I move for approval without reading.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. All right, the consent agenda is resolutions 5894 through and including 589918, along with the application. Mr. Corley.
This is resolution number 589418, authorizes the mayor to execute an annual service and maintenance agreement with Astro 25 System Upgrade Agreement 2 with Motorola Solutions for the Public Safety P25 radio upgrade. Resolution number 589518 authorizes the mayor or his designee to execute a Civic Plus Department header package sales form to add the Economic Development Department to the existing agreement. Resolution number 589618 authorizes the mayor or his designee to execute a new company application to add RecTrack CC billing to the Elvine credit card processing agreement. Resolution number 589718 authorizes the mayor to execute a claim service agreement with Alternative Concepts LLC. Resolutions number 589818 and 589918 authorize the mayor to execute amended community service agreements for Alabama Wildlife and Leadership Hoover. And the last item is an ABC application for retail beer on or off premises and retail table wine on or off premises for Sites Endeavors One LLC, doing business as Rosati's, 210 Doug Baker Boulevard, Suite 100, Hoover, Alabama, 35242.
Mr. President, I move for approval of all items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Moving on to the regular agenda, resolution 588818, Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes PS Site Management Consultants, Inc. to abate and perform the work to remove weed nuisances declared as such by the City Council as allowed by Alabama Code 116760. This code section exempts compliance with the competitive bid law for the purposes of weed abatement on private property.
Move to approve resolution 588818.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. First, Mr. White. I believe we have an issue with how the company is identified in the resolution. Shouldn't that be PSI?
I'll leave that up to your good judgment.
Guess we'll fix that at a later date. I noticed in the resolution there are no cost estimates provided. If you could please identify why in this particular case it's not there.
Well, they're so unpredictable as far as the yards will be cutting. Some of them will be on large slopes, some of them will be right, some will be all weedy work. So many variables there, there's no way you can tie that down to a cost per hour. So talking to staff and talking to Mr. Ben, we agreed that setting a maximum not to exceed of $750, and that each one would be approved by staff before he's given the go-ahead after receiving the proposal.
Very good. Any questions from the council?
Yes, Mr. White, 750 max, is there a minimum then?
No minimum set, no, sir. That's based on the average we've been receiving in the past.
I understand the vendor is here tonight. Would you like to get up and introduce yourself? You have to come down and give your name and address. As we used to say in the day. Hey.
Thank you, Council. I'm John McDonald, 108 Royal Chase Drive, Pelham, Alabama, President of PS Site Management Consultants Inc.
Oh, I?
PS Site Management.
I've known Pat for about 35, 40 years. He's a good man. You do have a city business license.
Correct, and all the insurance needed for this type of work.
Very good. Any other questions from the council? Any from the audience?
Yes, Mr. President, I have one more. Mr. White, I'm not clear on this. Will the city be doing any of this work, or will it all be turned over to our vendor?
Well, that hadn't been determined, based on what my understanding is, if Public Works doesn't have the manpower or on assigned to other projects, can't get to it right then we'll have him available to perform it. That's my understanding at this time.
Thank you.
Mr. McDonald, do you have anything you want to add? Okay. Well, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, Pat. Next, we have a public hearing for the abatement of public nuisance due to weeds and/or grass. Mr. Mack. Yes, sir. Come up. Absolutely.
Yes, sir. We have one case tonight on the public nuisance. It's 2272 Vanessa Drive. The photo you have was taken today. The backyard, we did receive a complaint on it. It meets our definition of being overgrown. So today will be just a vote to declare it a public nuisance.
It's a vacant property.
This house, I don't believe the owner lives there, but he does visit it frequently.
This is a public hearing. Anyone here to speak on behalf of the property or the neighborhood or any questions from the council? Hearing none, Mr. Corley, resolution 5889-18.
Mr. President, this is for 1017 Bridgewater Park Drive, is that correct?
The one I just introduced was public nuisance. It was the 2272. You want the abatement?
The public hearing, I understand, is for 1017 Bridgewater.
That's for the abatement here. Okay. This is the second hearing for 1017 Bridgewater Park Drive. This is where y'all would vote to abate it, where the city or...
Mr. Mack, if you could speak to the microphone.
Yes, the city would cut it after the vote tonight, and this property is currently vacant for sale. So it's the rear yard only that's overgrown.
Before we get to the resolution, this is a public hearing. You got the address right this time. All right. Mr. Corley, resolution 5889-18.
The property located at the following address has an overabundance of grass or weeds present thereon and presents a threat to the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Hoover. 1017 Bridgewater Park Drive. This resolution declares the overabundance of grass and weeds present on the above property as a public nuisance and orders the abatement thereof as provided under Alabama law.
Move to approve resolution 5889-18.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions from the council? Any from the audience? Seeing, hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Next is Resolution 589018, Mr. Corley.
Property located at the following address has an overabundance of grass and weeds present thereon and presents a threat to the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the city of Hoover. 2272 Vanessa Drive. This resolution declares the overabundance of grass and weeds present on the above property as a public nuisance and orders the abatement thereof as provided under Alabama law.
Move to approve resolution 589018.
Second.
We have a motion, second. Any comments or questions from the council? Any from the audience? Seeing, hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Next, item 11 is for resolutions 589118 and 589218, which will be taken and voted together.
Resolution 589118 authorizes the mayor to execute a memorandum of agreement with Shelby County regarding the construction of a new restroom and exterior showers at Veterans Park on Valley Dale Road. And Resolution 589218 authorizes the mayor to execute an agreement regarding the acceptance of county lodging tax promotional funds to be used by the city in the construction of the inclusive playground and splash pad project at the Hoover Met complex.
Move to approve resolutions 5891 and 589218.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Comments or questions from the council?
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
Dr. Miller.
Resolution 589218, the acceptance of the lodging tax to be used for the playground. We had spoken on Thursday night about the possibility of using those funds instead to supplement Shelby County's work there and building an all-inclusive adult-size changing table restroom there at the park. The mayor seemed like he was in favor of that idea. We need to amend this, continue this particular motion.
Dr. Middlebrooks, thank you very much. We have spoken with Shelby County. They're very much in favor of making that adjustment to the restrooms out of Veterans Park and adding the adult changing table. We are working with them to modify those plans. At this point in time, we don't think there's a need to adjust those two agreements at all. We believe that we will be able to handle making that adjustment to the restrooms.
Thank you.
Mr. Rice, on 5891, it's my understanding that because we are replacing what we're going to be city funds with county funding, that the county has requested that the funds the city would have provided go to the all-inclusive playground?
Yes, Mr. President, that's correct. Shelby County graciously came forward on the day of the groundbreaking at the playground and said that they had been able to assume all of the financial responsibility of what had been a 50-50 project for the restrooms at Veterans Park. And they wanted to make that offer so that we could free up our portion of that project and move it to the playground. So that would come to you in the form of a future budget amendment, if that would be acceptable.
What's the dollar value?
$50,000 was our half, which would then be allocated, and then we have the second movement, which would be an additional $25,000 from their lodging tax funds. Total gift, $75,000 from Shelby County.
Thank you, sir. Any comments or questions from the council? Anything else? Any from the audience? Seeing, hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Resolution 589318, Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes the mayor to execute an amendment to the wastewater systems management operation and maintenance services contract with Clearwater Solutions, LLC.
Move to approve resolution 589318.
Second.
Have a motion, second. I understand this is a one-year extension.
That's correct. That's correct.
Any comments or questions from the council? Any from the audience?
President,
Yes, sir.
Mr. West Overspine, I understand there was no change in the contract amount.
That's correct, Mr. Green. No change in the contract fee from this current year.
Thank you.
Anything from the audience? All in favor, vote aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Resolution We have now a second reading of ordinance 18-2407.
This ordinance rearranges, alters, and extends the city's corporate limits to include real property located at 853 Willow Oak Drive, known as the old River Chase Middle School, owned by the Hoover City Board of Education. And as shown on the map attached to the ordinance, this is phase 2 of a multi-stage annexation.
Mr. President, I move for the adoption of ordinance number 18-2407.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions from the council? This is the second phase of a 6-phase annexation vote. Anything from the audience? Seeing here none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Lyda?
Aye.
Dr. Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Posey?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye. Next, we have first reading of ordinance 18-2412. Mr. Corbett.
This ordinance rearranges, alters, and extends the city's corporate limits to include property owned by the Hoover City Board of Education as shown on the map attached to the ordinance. This is phase 3 of the multi-stage annexation. The second reading of this ordinance, consideration for adoption, will be on November 19, 2018.
All right. Next, we have first reading of ordinance 18-2413.
This ordinance rearranges, alters, and extends the city's corporate limits to include properties located at 2253 Chapel Hill Road and 2384 Farley Road, owned by Tara Ward Freeberg and Rhonda T. Payton respectively, and shown on the map attached to the ordinance. The second reading of this ordinance, consideration will be on November 19, 2018.
Next, we have second reading of ordinance 18-2408. Mr. Corbett.
This ordinance extends the use of the city's rights-of-way to AT&T Alabama for IP-enabled video services for an additional 5 years through December 31st, 2023. This ordinance also authorizes the mayor to execute an addendum to video services agreement in substantial conform attached to the ordinance as Exhibit A.
Mr. President, I move for adoption of ordinance number 18-2408.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Again, is there anything you'd like to add? I know you weren't here Thursday. I'm sorry to hear about your dad's fall.
It's pretty simple, just extending the deadline between the date of termination and 5 years.
Very good. Any questions from the council? Any from the audience? Seeing and hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Lyda?
Aye.
Dr. Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Posey?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye. Next, we have a public hearing. Consider the following request from Mr. John Rasmussen of Golden Strength and Associates, Inc. regarding property located at 2311 John Hawkins Parkway, owned by Herkimer M. Rick and Zone C1 Neighborhood Shopping District. The first request is to amend zoning conditions regarding building wall height and roof requirements. Second is a conditional use request for approval of a pet suites resort allowing provisions of various services to pets, including grooming, nutrition, boarding, and other specialized services. Mr. Martin, do you have anything you'd like to bring up first?
Yes, sir, that between the work session on Thursday and tonight, the applicant has submitted 4 conditions that would be in addition to other conditions that were placed on the conditional use request for the pet suites. And in lieu of some comments that the city made at the planning commission meeting where we felt like it was necessary to have a provision that talked about us potentially having a monitor of the site if we were to get complaints from the neighbors, that the business at their expense would go out and do a study of the sound emanating from the site. Applicant felt like that was a little untenable in their position, but instead proposed these 4 conditions be placed on approval if the council chooses to approve the use. The first being that the outdoor play area operations will be operated in a manner described and only within the timeframes as set forth in the description of the use that is attached as Exhibit A to the conditional use. restricted location of outdoor play area, that the outdoor play area for pets shall be allowed only within the designated play area as shown on the site plan presented in the proposed amended plan. And this was to address concerns about the portion of the site on the east end of the building being used as a play area. The only play area, or only area activated for play would be on the 150 side of the building. Thirdly, we have the bad dog provision. That if a dog is misbehaving in the outdoor play area, such that the dog's bad behavior results in excessive repetitive barking, then the dog will be removed from the outdoor pet play area. And then lastly, the landscape buffer maintenance. The landscaping shown on the site development plan presented in the proposed appended plan shall be maintained in good position by the operator and occupant of the property at its expense. So you'll notice in the application itself and the site plan that went with it, there is some extensive landscaping, goes beyond what our zoning ordinance requires, and that was to try to work with some of the neighbors to fend off some of the potential impacts. And with that fourth provision, they are stating that they will be responsible for maintaining that in good condition at their expense. So those are the additions that I have since Thursday night's work session.
All right. Before we get to any questions, I know that the applicant has Mr. Charlie Beavers here to have some discussion, make a presentation. Beavers, you and I have been listening to each other so long since I was on planning and zoning, we both had hair.
Mine got started turning loose real quick. Anyway, Mr. President, members of council, my name's Charlie Beavers, and it's my pleasure to be here on behalf of the applicant. We made a full-blown presentation at the first reading at the request of the council, but I believe that some of the members were not present at that time, so I think I'd like to at least make a general presentation, if that would be all right, to lead into something that we've done since that hearing. I invited the council to come along up to Roswell with me just to check the thing out and see what it really is like. And of course, since it wasn't in Panama, we didn't get any takers on it, but I took off on Friday at 9 o'clock in the morning, went over to Roswell, Georgia, spent a couple hours around the site because I just wanted to see. We got back home about 5:30. That, you know, we spent 5 months on this thing. Started in the latter part of May, meeting with staff, and had 3 at least big meetings with full staff to figure out all the things that needed to be done. We had 2 zoning board of adjustment hearings where we got some approvals there. We have had 3 hearings before the planning commission, which resulted in some recommendations. And then, of course, we had 1 hearing before this council. Here we are again. Before we filed, we had a big meeting in this room with neighbors, invited all of them on the streets by this property to come and take a look. And we had meetings subsequently with neighbors at the engineer's offices and on site with one of the neighbors to look at his particular situation. So we have spent a considerable amount of time, effort, and a lot of expense for this developer to try to deal with this in an appropriate way. We also engaged a sound study, which was presented to this council as well as to the planning commission. A question was raised by Councilor Shaw, which is a very appropriate question. Said, well, the sound study shows that the level of the volume of dogs that might be heard is no greater than the ambient sound in the area, so it's not very loud. He says sometimes the volume isn't really the only issue. It's the barking in a way that might be at a certain EQ, a certain frequency, you know, repetition that would be annoying, and we don't know from the sound study whether that was happening or not. And the only way I could figure out to satisfy myself was to go myself and take a listen and walk around the place and then present what I found to you. I think for it, and I took my phone and video, audio video thing. I'd like to show it to you in a second, if that's all right. And I talked to Hogan, the developer, who's a substantial developer, develops big name companies all around the country. None of us want to be a part of anything that wouldn't be appropriate. We're going to spend close to $4 million on this facility. And we don't want issues down the line. We want to be associated with things that's not right. They believe that this can be put in a way that is not intrusive to the neighborhood, and in fact in a way that would be very helpful to the neighborhood. Resolve a situation that's there now where it's wide open. The backyards of these houses are wide open to 150. They can see it, they can hear it, but with a development there, it blocked 150 substantially. The question is this development going to be one that creates other issues? And before I show this video, I'd like to just remind folks that it's on C1. A C1 permitted use can be permitted without any public hearings. It needs code. And there are a lot of uses that would be permitted, like a grocery store. Let me just take a quick look here on this. Grocery store, dry cleaner, drugstore, catering restaurants, banks, retailers and drive-thrus, general use of neighborhood service, food service restaurants. Many of those can have drive-thrus and swap boxes. And those drive-thrus can be on the rear of the building, between the building and the neighborhood. There's no prohibition on driveways, loading docks, exits and whatnot on the back side of the building. All of these things have been addressed in the proposed site plan, where our folks will sprinkler this building so they don't have to have a driveway in the back of the building for fire trucks to reach the portion of the building to the coast. And we'll sprinkler. No driveways back there. Only one emergency access back there. They wouldn't be using it at all. They wouldn't have any activity back behind that building other than landscaping. You don't have any drive-through type tellers or ordering boxes and that kind of thing with this facility, which you could with others. So we think it's a use that is very neighborhood friendly. You got the question though, are they going to hear dogs barking? Can we put the site plan up there? Maybe the one with landscape and all. There you go. And particularly for those who weren't here at the first presentation, the outdoor play area is on the 150 side. That little leg on the far end of the building would not, the planning commission in its recommendation says they would recommend it, but provided that's only a potty area, that's not a play area on that end. We've got the building, of course, which is between the play area and the residences in the back. And then there's extensive landscaping. There's a 12-foot cut. So the topo of the back of the yards on the properties adjacent to this in the rear will be 12 feet higher than the floor of the building on the site. And then it slopes up, and then the landscaping is put on along the boundary. There's also a fence that was put there by the original developer. This property was zoned C1. Excuse my back, I have to look at this, talk about it. But when this property was zoned C1, there were no houses up next to it. There were actually long lots off the residential street that went down to 150. They cut them in half, basically, made the 150 part zone C1, and then said, you got to raise the elevation of the property up on the street, and developer who got its own, you got to build houses on there within 2 years. So these houses would basically be a buffer for the houses that were already there on the other side of the street. And that's what happened. So it's all been set up for it to be C1 like that. And there were some restrictions, but they didn't include all of the things that this developer of the pet suites is proposing to do. So one of the things that was done was there was a sound study. It showed basically zero noise coming from a sound study based on a development of this kind, the same folks in Roswell, Georgia. It was next to residential. And if you could put that, I'll put up the Roswell site where the sound study was done. The general conclusions of that, and we gave the study staff, it's been in all the packages. The one conclusion was no sound at all at night. And they've limited the hours here. I think it's 6:30 in the morning to 8 in the evening. The covenants that are on this property would allow an enterprise to operate up to midnight. They'll cut it off at 8. But the sound study at Roswell showed that there would be no sound coming from this facility whatsoever after closing time, after 8 o'clock, when the pets were brought in from the play area, put down for the night, whatsoever. During the daytime, when pets are out there in the play area, the measure of the sound on the far side of the building at Roswell showed that the volume of sound that you might hear from dogs was within the volume of ambient sound from the roadways, and that it was no louder at any time than a normal speaking voice and those kinds of things. It's not loud at all. But then the question was, that was a pretty persuasive kind of thing you did there. Walk, walk, walk. You was, oh my goodness, this would be pretty bad if that's happening. So I said, what is it happening? So I went to Roswell, and I sat out in my truck on the street there. On the far side of the building, you can see the street side of the building that way, and then the play areas on the other side of the building there, on the other side. So I listened to that, and I videoed it, and I also went around to the top side of the building, right by the play area, fence on the play right there, and I videoed that, because there the dogs are, and you can hear them barking, oh my goodness, you don't want to hear that. And I just kept it rolling. I walked around the building, in the front parking lot, and then out on the streets out there and ran it so you could get the difference. I gave a little sound check every now and then, so you know what just a regular speaking voice would sound like, where I was recording, so you get a feel for that. Now, say in one of the videos, if you listen to the first of it, you'll hear a click, click, click. I had my hazards on in my truck, so I turned them off, and you get a feel for the volume, that caused, to measure what you hear from the site. And then toward the end of that, some kids were getting let off at the end of the block there from a bus, a school bus, and you can hear the kids, and so you can kind of get a measurement there. So, if I may, I'd like to show first the video of me sitting out there in the truck. That's the second one here. And then we'll move to the one where I walk around. Well, we want to turn the volume up.
Pretty quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. You can get more. Be able to measure. Play areas on the back side of that building. That is not good. If you started over, let me say this, we're never going to say they wouldn't, people, they stand in their backyards right up near that fence, they wouldn't ever hear anything coming from there. They would. It's intermittent, muffled, not sharp. Sound check. Sound check. Sound check. don't know if y'all can hear the kids or not, or hear much of anything, but you could hear, like we were standing here, every now and then you could hear the sound of dogs, kind of like down hollering away. And if you like, you know, I can send these to you all, we can listen to them on computers or however you want to. We want this to be right, and we want to make sure it has every opportunity to be right. If we think it's the right development for the site, we're willing to spend whatever additional time we need to explore any other added provisions that we need to, or architectural features to help with noise and that kind of thing that we need to. But there's one other that's a little over 2 minutes that will hopefully pick up. Sound check. That's what it sounds like right up on it. Sound check. Sound check. Sound check. Sound check. That's accurate. That one was a lot more accurate than what I heard. There were times I'd be out there a couple of minutes and you didn't hear anything. And there were times you could hear that. Pardon? No.
I heard firearms going on.
I didn't hear that.
To do with the microphone and everything.
The operator.
Yeah. This is a first-class, big-time development, and would be, we think, very good for Hoover and this community. We think it would be very good on this site. We want to do everything we can to demonstrate that, because we believe in it. As I was looking at the site plan this afternoon and thinking about this, contrasting what you heard from that, is a drop in elevation by 12 feet and extensive landscaping. Got our sound experts here again if you want to talk to them about it, but the way the sound waves come, they get absorbed by the slope, they get absorbed by the landscaping. And we think it'd be better than, certainly better than even Roswell. I thought, well, what else can we do? And I thought, well, maybe I haven't talked to Pet Sweets about this, but just looking at it at the end of this evening, I thought, maybe we could do some some more extensive fencing along the sides of the play areas, you know, where they extend beyond the building, that would help absorb sound and do some things like that. We will need to look at, we think we put all the landscaping we can put in there, but if Sharon, you know, has some more ideas about landscaping, she's looked at this, we could do some more of that. We want it to be right, and we want it to be a credit to the city and to the neighborhood. It's something that, you know, neighbors oftentimes they do when they're afraid about what something might be. After it's in there, they go, wow, you know, it's not that bad. It happens a lot, and I think that would be the case here. We're not, you know, we've been at this a long time. We're not going to, of course, you're going to vote when you want to vote. We're not going to insist on a vote tonight. If you feel like you got to vote tonight, that's fine with us too. If you feel like maybe we ought to go and take a look at a few other aspects of it, we're happy to do that. We want to get it approved. We want to get it approved in a way that after it's done, everybody's very happy with it.
Well, we'll bring that question up a little bit later. I'm sure that the council, there may be some other people want to participate in the public hearing. I don't know. Anyone else in your group have anything new to add?
Nothing new that we didn't present last month. As I say, a couple of council members I think weren't here. If they have any questions, if you want us to go through any of these other slides and pictures, there's a cut that might be interesting for them to see. Can I just show that one slide? Show that, just so that the ones that weren't here before can get a better idea of, you know, the Highway 150 is this way, the play area is that way up against the building. It's not shown there. There's your slope, there's the fence along the property line, there's the landscaping. And that's representative of at planting. You've got the details of how tall the at planting is, not just little bitty stuff. And it grows and fills in just better as time goes on. Thought that might be helpful. Thank you.
Council, do you want to start, or you want to let the audience start? All right, well, I'm going to let seniority take it. Mr. Green, I think you're the senior man here, so.
I'd rather not be referred to as that.
But how about a senior statesman?
There you go.
All right.
Sir, did you happen to talk to any of the neighbors when you were there in Roswell?
It did not. I will tell you that in Roswell, if you get that picture back up on Roswell, the neighborhood is right up against the play area.
Right, I noticed that. That's why.
And I rode back there, and what you heard when I got right up on the fence is what they hear. Not quite as bad, but they hear it
Yes,
significantly.
well, in all fairness, but you did not speak to any of the neighbors.
No.
No, the sound could have been different than the time that you were there. So that's why I was wondering if you was knocking any doors and talking to the neighbors. Second question I have.
Let me say this, if I need to do that, we're happy to do it.
Well, I was just asking if you did.
No, sir.
Answer's no. I was also concerned, did you talk to the Roswell Police Department about the number of complaints, if any, they have had?
We checked on that early on, that question was raised. There was one complaint in Roswell, as I understanding, when it was first put in. And they tried to follow up with the person that made the complaint, referred to them. They could never get in touch with them. People never called back, and that's the only complaint that they had. They've had none since then.
And another thought that I had on this, it depends on the number of dogs that were there at the time that you were
There were
there.
25 large dogs out there at the time. They will run up to 35, they tell me, at the max.
Well, then that falls to my next question. As far as speaking to the owners of that facility, you did speak to them? Did you ask them if they had complaints?
I did not ask them that question. Who I talked to were the operators that were there. I went in and asked them how many dogs are out there. They told me 25 large dogs. I asked them, do you ever have more? They said sometimes up to 35. 20, 25 is kind of a norm, or kind of a max. But it could go up to 35. And they say that you hear what happens is what you heard on that. It's a muffled kind of sound. It comes and it goes. When you get on the other side of the building, you barely hear it, and sometimes you don't hear anything at all. If you're right up on it, and you will hear it, and we're certainly not proposing that layout that's at Roswell relative to those residents. Because of that, we think that's a problem. We wouldn't do that. Thank you. Yes, sir, thank you.
Mr. Green asked one of my questions about the number of dogs. You're saying it's primarily large dogs and not smaller dogs?
That's just what was out there at the time. They do have small dogs. If the large dogs are out there, they don't put the small dogs out there, they run them inside.
That's a different frequency level, having a small dog. The barking's quite different. Not that I don't think that would have made any difference with the recording, just based on the type of microphone, the proximity that you were using to the facility. I do have a question about this site plan though, as opposed to your other one. If you look at the density of the forestation beside the building, you see how dense that is and how close that is. Now, I mean, that could have been just the way the building was built. Yeah, the number of trees. There's quite a bit more in the way of trees up against that building than.
Well, that right there covers up what.
A lot of houses, right?
Yeah, there are houses right here, all the way over here.
Stevens, if you could back up just a little bit,
And here's
the microphone, plean.
Right.
You got 60.
Yeah, it's they're right on, you know, I mean, they just are. They're just right on. There's no vegetation. Speak
Right
of
there.
between that and these houses. I just was out there looking at it. You know, you can see, you can drive up in the driveway of these houses and look right at the fencing. You know, there's nothing even to block the view of it. So it's a totally different situation in terms of what those residents experience.
Sure. So you're projecting that. Go to your next. Give me your next slide. Your actual site plan here. Right that one right there. So there's nothing across the street right now. Across 150, because you're putting you're going to have sound. I know you're worried about the houses behind that, and you should be. But you're also going to have sound coming across the street and ambient sound going backward toward that property behind it. I'm just wondering, you talk to those neighbors, and do they have any concerns about the sound?
Right in here?
Well, there's nothing there, but there could be conceivably in the near future, and in that complex behind there as well. Have you had conversations with them about this?
These folks here?
Yeah.
We have not. That's the UAV center. I got an email from a resident here last week asking for advice about what to do because these folks were tearing down their vegetation. He was concerned about it. I referred him to Sharon. Said that might be where he should go. I don't know what's come of that, but yeah, we haven't talked to these folks. You know, we're happy to. If we'd like for us to, we're happy to talk to the people that own this. It's, you know, it's retail commercial. There's a vet clinic down here. I can't remember exactly what's over there. I think it's just vacant right here. You got development here, and then you got development down here too. It's all
It's
retail.
Hoover, it's not going to stay that way.
Pardon?
It's Hoover, it's not going to stay that way.
That's right.
I do not like the fact that there's not an emergency access road to that facility because there are a lot of things that can happen there at that facility where you need an emergency access road. And if you were to have a fire, I understand the sprinklers would take care of some of that, but you are so close to residential, it would be better to have some kind of emergency access of any kind, whether you were talking about parking, walking across, something like that, and that back road to that facility, because there's a lot of things that could go wrong there where you really do need that access.
Well, that's certainly something that we could look at designing with the idea that it would never be used unless there was an emergency. Because that's kind of a commitment we made to folks, and we're going to keep that from being active. Yes, we're happy to do whatever but this got approved by the fire folks, but we're happy to look at that and see what might be done as an emergency way in and out too. Happy to look at the site plan.
Chief, you have anything about that you've been involved in the approval?
This meets current fire code, and with the building being fully sprinkled, we're not required to have access on that side. We could almost, you could almost have ladder truck access from Pine Street over right behind there, with ladder truck access in the middle. So this meets code. So we're satisfied. If the building was not sprinkled, then we would have to have access around the building.
One more question for you. If you go down to that elevation plan, the last slide in your slide deck there. Is there a reason why, I understand that the magnolia is probably the most dense tree that you can get in there as far as sound absorption. Is there a reason why you didn't come down the hill with those to give you a maximum impact of sound absorption? Was that cost or what was the thought on that?
Our landscape architect, Robin Gregory.
Yeah, the thought was a combination would work better when we had the pine trees that would grow quicker on the slope. And because the bags being up on the top of the slope would be larger, and at the top of the slope. So, to put those on the steeper slope would be problematic just because of the size of the walls.
Okay. And as far as you may be the right person to answer this question, but as far as the fencing that would go there, what kind of fencing would you use that would be more sound absorbent? If you're looking to go that route rather than something that would reflect it around the play area. They would not bounce the sound.
Yeah, we had talked about possibly with brick columns with brick sections between it, and that in total masonry, then that would help you with your sound much better.
Okay.
And another point along those lines, the Roswell building has metal kind of sidings, an architectural vertical metal siding. Planning commission didn't like that here, and so we agreed to make this brick. We think the brick, is going to help even more. The whole building will be clad in brick, except for that front part, this right here, and it's it's hard surfaces as well. But the metal that was going to be on the long sides and the back side is being replaced with brick.
Okay.
So that will help. And we're happy to revisit landscaping with Sharon and whoever you all would like for us to. We came up with something that our folks thought would work well, and of course we had meetings with staff, including Sharon, about that, and we understood that was acceptable. But it's all that can be on the table. I want it to be right.
I just talked, Mr. President.
All right.
Well, I'll say something real quick. I mean, Derek's looking at me like he's expecting.
Any other questions from the council? All right. Anybody from the audience would like to speak? All right. If y'all would just line up against that wall when you get here, please give us your name and address. And if you would, make your comments or questions for the council to the applicant.
My name is Chris Shows.
You pull the microphone a little bit.
My name is Chris Shows. I live at 132 Iron Lane. I'm directly across the street from the main houses that would back up to this facility. I have been in property management for a long time. I'll give you one example of noise nuisance. We just rented a space to a company, and they brought their 2 Yorkies to work. Their office is directly across from mine, and every movement that came through that parking lot, those 2 dogs were yapping. So I have the right to tell them you can't bring the dogs because you're a nuisance to the other tenants in the area. Well, I don't have that here. If the noise is going to be bothering me, what recourse do I have? None. So that's the only thing.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
My name is Larry Houck, H-O-U-C-K. I'm president of Houck Properties, Inc. And on that diagram, we're across 150 toward the top of the hill, 2304 John Holmes Parkway. I just really curious as what the height of the main building, the main part of the building. I see what might be a sign with a dog paw.
Mr. Martin.
That's just an identity, but the building itself, just what is the height? And I'm in favor of this development. I'm really opposed. See, I didn't get a.
I was going to let Mr. Martin do real quick because I think he's
First
stuck with
notice
us
I had
for
of
a
this
while.
was 2 weeks ago, and so I wasn't in on any of the meetings.
That's all right. Tonight, you can ask anything and everything your heart desires.
That's the only one I've got.
will say that we, the city, as we were reviewing this application, we did have issues with the green blade and the pawl that's on it. It's shown here on the left-hand side of the building as you're facing the entrance. In actuality, it was going to be on the right-hand side, on the 150 side. We had issue with the height and with the additional signage, and so the developer agreed to remove the green blade architectural feature and the additional pawl off of this building. So this portion is no longer a part of the architectural plans.
What is the height of that beige building?
18 feet.
That's all I have to say, thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name is Ahmed Muthana. If you can please give me the other picture, I'll show you where is my house. Number 2, yes, this one. I've been living in that house since 2006. I'm not intending to be here. I have 4 kids. My oldest son will graduate next month from UAB. I work at BC. Last night I just came here. My son will marry and stay in the same house. I don't know, this project could be good for the investor. It looks good for some businessmen, customers. It doesn't look good to us who've been living there and will continue to live there. Every morning I drink my tea in the balcony, in the patio, I'm sorry. And I smell the Hoover weather. Next time maybe I will smell the smell that comes from the dogs all my life. So I talk to other neighbors. They also don't like to see this project in our neighborhood, but unfortunately I don't know why they came here today.
Is it strictly the dogs, or is it any type of construction at all?
It's the dogs, the smell, and the value of our houses. I have only this house. And I'm not, we have low income, we don't have good money to go and buy another house. We'll stay there, and we ask people, they say definitely the value of your houses will go down. Yeah, because of this project. Obviously, the gentleman who been speaking here for the old project, he already had big problems with the neighbors there. Why he should build this building now, and then he will have more problems in the future with neighbors.
ABC store wanted to open there. Y'all favor that?
ABC board, ABC code.
Yeah.
I will not approve it there by myself. I would like to see ABC.
Cigarette shop?
Either. Yeah, no.
What kind of commercial building would you?
Well, there is a medical project there next to us. There is a kids care, daycare in front of in that area, and there is a shopping center. That kind of business. It's good, and there is CVS around us.
Somebody wanted to
This
open
business may be good, but there's Hoover is big. You can build it in any place.
Somebody wanted to open like a kinder care or something like that, like it's across the street. Y'all be in favor?
Kinder care? Or
Well,
kindergarten?
a kindergarten school like across the
Yes,
street.
that would be nice.
Just trying to figure out where the line's drawn, that's all. All right, anyone else in the audience? This is a public hearing. Mr. Beaver, you had mentioned about whether or not we were to vote tonight. I can't tell you which way the vote's gonna go because I haven't had discussion, nor should I. You had brought up the possibility of waiting. Are you asking for a continuance?
I was simply saying that we would be willing to do what we need to do. If we need to work into more details about it, we're not trying to press it. If this council, obviously, if council feels like it's good to go like it is, we'd be delighted with that. But I don't want to, we don't want to have it passed with any unanswered questions. If there are things that we can do that will make it better, we're willing, to look at that and do that. I will say this, that there's just absolutely no odors there. And the method of handling all of that has been shown to staff and plan commission. And I went inside the building, I just, they handle it. They got a real involved way that they deal with that. So I understand that concern, but that's been dealt with. We think it's a good development. We think the plan is good, but if there are any items that any council members feel like we need to zero in on a little more, we're happy to go do that. Yes.
Anything else from the council?
I'll make one point. Well, firstly, every time Gonzalez Steel comes up here, they really do a really good job and due diligence to go out to a location and record and drive miles, to do all those type of things. That's commendable. We know whatever they bring forward, we're going to have all our questions asked, and they're going to go above and beyond. I guess I actually one question. Is that the only area that the organization has looked at, a plot of land? I know you put a lot of investment into this particular site. Is that the only area in the city of Hoover that they are interested in? Because, the idea is great. Definitely want to be pro-business, but at the same time, a lot of times perception gets in the way. I remember when I was selling my home, stayed there like 5 years or so. Was still in there, but my wife won the argument. But it was two beagles next door. I got used to them, little dogs. But a couple folks came by, saw them there, and that deal didn't go through just because of that type of thing. So as a representative here listening to residents, I always listen to our voters too in many regards. Even though smell, sound, maybe de minimis, perception kind of get in the way in some regards. So that's what I'm debating with right now. I couldn't say I'll be able to kind of answer the question today, to be blunt with you. But is it any other opportunity in the city? Will they even be interested in looking at, or is that just that's the spot and that's what it's going to be?
I've asked that question. I'm a local lawyer, land use lawyer, and of course Gonzalez are the local landscape architects and civil engineers. And I've asked that question of the developer, and we were given the assignment by Pet Suites to pursue getting the zoning approvals to put it here. In fact, we've had folks send us other sites, say, hey, if it didn't work out here, how about this site, and we've sent those along. The answer from Pet Suites is they picked this particular site out particularly as something that meets their needs and their vision for what they want to do in terms of where it is in the city. And this is the site they directed Hogan, the developer, and directed us to pursue. So they haven't even wanted to. They've looked at whatever sites they thought were out there and selected this and said, this is our site, this is where we want to come. That said, I understand about the perception. That perception could be worse if you're looking out over what now is an open field and looking at the roadway and thinking what might go here. It could be worse if you had a dry cleaner there with a drive-through and a spot box or a grocery store, any other number of things that could be there. So that's a point we understand, but if indeed it goes in and is not like having two dogs next door, which is one thing, but having them behind the building and locked in with the landscaping and all is another thing. If in fact it's good, we would hope folks wouldn't have trouble. But I understand that question. What we can do, the best we can do to make it where it's not a problem, and our folks are willing to go the extra mile to do that. And look at some extra features they could put in the development plan if you're not yet satisfied with it to get you there.
My last point, and maybe Councilman Shaw, the President, can answer this. This is what, C1?
C1.
Which means that if it falls up under that, we couldn't do anything about what goes there. Like,
If it met C.
if it's C1, so can you just give me a couple examples so our neighbors will know?
I'll defer to Mr. Martin on that question as far as what specific.
Give me 1 second.
Figured I was gonna come up.
Mr. President, may Mr. Martin's getting ready, as you know, sometimes have to leave early right now until my wife fully recovers, but, I am needed at home pretty soon. I'm trying to wait this out. But,
We're almost there. I think we're almost there.
I've got it here. And while he's looking at that, some things we've identified that can be
Those
done.
basically office.
Now, C1 allows some retail, and it would allow it allows office, but it allows a grocery store, dry cleaner, drugstore, catering restaurants, banks and tellers, drive-throughs, a general category of neighborhood service, a number of things, and food service restaurants. Those are some things that specifically be allowed. Again, many of those could have drive-throughs. They could have loading docks and things in the back. They don't have to do near the landscape. They wouldn't have to come before any public body for any approval. They just meet the code with the plan, pull a permit and do it.
Martin, are drive-throughs conditional use in C1?
Just with respect to food service restaurants. That's the way I read it.
And the way I looked at it, of course, drive-through restaurants are a classification all their own, and are not included in the food service restaurants category that's shown in the permitted principal uses.
We agree with that.
Nor are they shown in the conditional uses that are outlined here. So, as a zoning official, my take on it is that drive-throughs as they relate to restaurants are not permitted here. But having said that, you do have laundromats, you do have some other things like banks that may have that operation.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Anything else from the council? Anything else from the audience? Mr. Scarlett, before I call for a motion, is there, and I know we usually deal with that first, are there any legal ratings that need to take place prior to taking the vote?
No, sir.
All right. So, Mr. Shaw?
All right, so we're voting on these two together, correct?
Yes, and if you could, please, ask for a roll call.
All right, Mr. President, I would move for approval to amend the zoning conditions and for the conditional use with the additional 4 restrictions as noted in the additional document here. For both the amendment of the zoning conditions and the conditional use.
With a roll call.
And I do request a roll call vote on that.
Thank you, sir. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anything else from the council? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Lyda?
Nay.
Dr. Middlebrooks?
Nay.
Mr. Murphy?
Nay.
Mr. Cozy?
Nay.
Oh, I wouldn't put Mr. Shaw under that kind of pressure.
It's up to you.
I'll go ahead and vote nay.
All right, so, unfortunately, I think it's a very good concept, just not in the right place. I know, I mentioned before that, before you were here, Mr. Peters, that we use a similar place at my house that we use it so much they named a wing after us, I think. But perhaps Mike can find another property and still come forward.
I'll
18, public hearing to consider the request. Dr. Middlebrooks has had a family issue. He's had to leave, mark him out at this time. Public hearing to consider request from Mr. Jim Mitchell for conditional use approval for a neighborhood shopping center located at 1801 Doug Baker Boulevard. This property is owned by Millennial Bank, formerly known as Covenant Bank, and is on C2 Community Business District. Any new information, Mr. Martin?
I have none to share.
All right. Does the applicant have any new information?
Nothing new other than what I presented.
All right. This is a public hearing. Anyone from the council have any comments or questions? Anyone from the audience? All right, this will close the public hearing, and Mr. Shaw?
Yes, Mr. President, I would move for approval of the conditional use of a neighborhood shopping center, and I would add the restriction, make sure we have the restrictions we put in the additional commentary from planning and zoning for the crosswalk across the Baker Boulevard to the far corner. Just make sure that's in the record.
I have a motion?
Second.
And a second. Any other questions? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Item 19 is a public hearing. Congratulations. Public hearing to consider the following request of Mr. William Silver with U.S. Steel Corporation in regard to the preserved PUD. First, Second Amendment to the preserved PUD to rezone property to the north of the existing town center from PR1 planned single family to PC planned commercial, and amend the development criteria for the town center area zone PC planned commercial to permit the following. A, permit adjustments to the distribution of space dedicated to retail and office uses prescribed in the First Amendment, but to maintain the overall cap of 88,170 square feet of commercial space approved in the First Amendment. B, permit an increase of a single tenant space from 15,000 square feet maximum to 29,000 square feet maximum for grocery tenant only. And C, establish an undisturbed buffer just south of the Boulder Field on USX property. All other development requirements and criteria prescribed for the PC planned commercial zone and the First Amendment shall apply to the property rezoned to PC planned commercial in this request. After the public hearing, likely going to have a second reading and vote. Item 2, conditional use approval to A, permit mixed-use development within the PC planned commercial zone to include detached and attached residential dwellings north of the town center and upper floor housing within the town center per the conceptual plan, and B, extend the conditions placed on the PC planned commercial zone in the First Amendment to the adjacent, or to the additional property rezone PC planned commercial. This is a public hearing. Mr. Silver, do you or anyone have anything that has changed since the first reading?
Good evening. My name is Peter Alsop. No, there haven't really been any changes other than at the request of the city clerk that we redo the legal description to more specifically identify the part of the property that's being rezoned from PR1 to PC, which we did with a lot of good help. Thank you, Ms. Henry.
Okay, was there anything else? I'm told that maybe y'all had PowerPoint yourself.
I did prepare that one with some slides if anyone needed a more formal presentation or there are questions.
Based on old information, or is there anything that...
Just the one new map, which is the an exhibit to show the legal description of the change more specifically.
Okay, well, if you'd like to show us the map, that would be good.
Yes, that'd be fine. Slide number, that one there. we had a top hat looking zoning that didn't really fit the additional parking that the grocery store would require. And we had originally shown, as shown on the last slide, the new PC zone as a whole. And the city clerk wanted it to be shown just in terms of what was actually being changed from PR1 to PC. And that's the previous slide.
Very good. And just to make sure we're right from this past Thursday, the buffer between the back of the property and the boulder field is 200 feet.
There is not actually a measurement as yet. What we are looking to do is to generally relocate closer to the boulder fields in an area that was previously slated for development of houses to make that additional buffer to replace where we're getting closer to the preserve in the back.
I'm not sure where then I picked up that 200-foot mark. How far will the buffer be in your estimate between the back of any housing to be constructed in the boulder field?
It would be at least 200 just based on this exhibit as it's drawn. And we have started trying to have some conversations with the city about that area, but that's a separate matter from the actual rezoning that we're looking at this time.
I was told as of Thursday that there were no conversations.
There was a meeting that was scheduled with the mayor for Friday, and it had to be rescheduled.
Maybe yet to come.
Yes.
All right.
And we're open to that, absolutely. The boulders are an important element in the preserve, which is frankly one of our best efforts in the city of Hoover, and we want to make sure that's well taken.
Any questions from the council?
I'm a tad bit confused. What is the buffer? Has it changed? It was 200. There was discussion about 200 Thursday, I believe.
You can see the approximate boundary line, and you can see where the boulder fields are.
Okay.
And then using the scale.
Yeah, so it is roughly 200 foot.
Yes.
Okay, all right, all right.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council? Any from the audience? Please come down and give us your name and address.
I'm Ken Wills. I live at 2253 Rock Creek Trail in Hoover, Alabama. I am the president of Friends of Moss Rock Preserve. For nearly 18 years, we've worked with the city to conserve and improve moss rock. Last few years, we've cut and killed a lot of privet, still a lot more to go. As I said in zoning, we're not here to oppose anything, including this commercial center. We are pleased with the expanded buffer around the boulder field, and we're pleased with the temporary parking for the moss rock users, since our current parking lot in that area is fixed to be lost when the commercial center commences. We are here to basically urge the city to keep talking with U.S. Steel and try to acquire the 8 acres that includes that buffer and the temporary parking, so that we can have a permanent buffer and permanent parking in that area south of the boulder field, and also have some opportunities for possibly some other amenities. And so we just please hope that the city will explore those possibilities. Thank you.
Thank you. How are you, sir?
My name is Scott Myers. I live at 231 Campbell Terrace, which is just on the opposite side of Moss Rock Preserve from the preserve. I'm fortunate that I can walk down the street about 3 houses and enter Moss Rock Preserve, but not everybody has that luxury. So what I'm here is to ask, and to second much of what Ken had to say, I'm very concerned about the loss of parking. And because I've been there a number of times, like I say, I usually could walk in there. Sometimes I drive around and park in that parking lot. And I'm surprised how many times I find it completely full, even as it is now. And I'm very concerned about the loss of that parking. And again, would like to request, plead, that the city does pursue trying to gain some of that extra property there, that 8 acres we're talking about, and add more parking there, because otherwise parking is a real problem. As you know, on Sulphur Springs, that little parking lot there holds maybe a half dozen cars. The other parking that has access to the Moss Rock Preserve next to Simmons Elementary is largely full of buses most of the time. So this is the primary parking lot. Again, we'd like to ask that you take that into consideration, and we'll strongly consider adding that area and converting much of it, or at least some of it, to the necessary parking. Thank you.
At this time, I believe that any meetings that are anticipated are between the mayor's office, staff, and USX. So the council will be eagerly awaiting any recommendations. Any other questions or comments from the audience or the council? Yes, sir. Come down.
My name is Sam Hoover. I live at 559 Founders Park Circle in the preserve. My wife and I are the first ones to contract in the preserve. We are very much looking forward to this plan. We understand the parking problem, but I think that will eventually take care of itself. I don't see any need to not do this project, because we've been looking forward to it. We promised it for a long time, and we'd very much like to approve it.
Thank you, sir. Anything else? If not, Mr. Corley, second reading of ordinance 18-2409.
This ordinance amends the city's zoning ordinance by rezoning property described on Exhibit A of the ordinance from PR1 to PC Plan Commercial in the Preserve PUD, and by modifying the development criteria for the town center as detailed in Exhibit B attached to the ordinance. All other development requirements and criteria prescribed for the PC Plan Commercial Zone of the Preserve Planned Unit Development as approved by the city on November 15, 1999 shall apply to the property rezoned. The property is owned by USA.
Shaw?
Mr. President, I move for adoption of ordinance 18-2409.
Second.
Are we going to vote these two together, or are we going to vote them separately?
It's one of the ordinance.
All right, very good. We have a motion and a second. One last call for comments. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Lyda?
Aye.
Sorry, Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Posey?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye. Congratulations. Next, we have a public hearing, another one. Public hearing to consider the request of Mr. Connor Farmer representing.
Mr. President, I need to move it.
Oh, yeah, yes, number 2.
So I would move to approve the conditional use for mixed use and extending the conditions placed on PC.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Now, item 20, public hearing to consider the request of Mr. Connor Farmer representing Glant Lake LLC to rezone 2 vacant parcels located on Heatherwood Drive, situated on the southeastern side of Altadena Woods subdivision from R1 single family district to PR1 planned single family, incorporated into the East Heatherwood PUD, which is located on the west side of Caldwell Mill Road. These 2 parcels are intended to be included in a proposed 5-lot subdivision with East Heatherwood PUD. This is a public hearing. Do we have any new information tomorrow?
No, sir, no new information to share.
Anybody to here to speak for or against? Any comments or questions from the council? With that, probably did it first last time, Mr. Shaw. This will close the public hearing and move towards the second reading and vote. Mr. Corley, please. Ordinance 18-2410.
This ordinance amends the city zoning ordinance by rezoning the property shown on the map attached to the ordinance PR1 Planned Single Family District, and to incorporate this property into the East Heatherwood PUD, which is located on the west side of Caldwell Mill Road. This property is owned by Gallant Lake LLC.
Mr. President, I move for adoption of ordinance number 18-2410.
Second.
A motion and second. Any other comments or questions? none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Wyatt?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Posey? Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye. Next, we're going to set a public hearing for Monday, November 19th, 2018, to consider the request of the city of Hoover to amend the municipal code appendix I zoning regarding body art establishments, pawn shops, short-term loan shops, and vape and/or tobacco stores. Mr. Foley, first reading of ordinance 18-2411.
This ordinance amends certain sections of the city's zoning code regarding the location of body art establishments, pawn shops, short-term loan shops, and vape and/or tobacco stores.
Next item, we did not have any items removed from the consent agenda, so Mr. Leiter, payment of the bills.
I move to be paid as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Item 24, comments or questions from the council?
Mr. President, just like to remind everybody, we have a very important election tomorrow, and get to vote.
True. That's true. Get in line early. There can be some long ones this time. Mr. Rice, anything from the mayor's office this week?
Just a reminder about all our Veterans Week activities. We had a wonderful kickoff yesterday at the library theater. Mr. Pate, retired and taken director of the city, is the Freedom Award recipient for this year. We're all incredibly proud of him for that. And I think in the email that you all received this morning, you have a list of all the different activities throughout the week. So thank you for joining us for those.
Anything else from the council? Anything from the audience? Going once? Don't you dressed up so nicely? Not even gonna talk. Adjourned.